Welcome to this live broadcast just for a few minutes because we're talking with a real good friend of OBC this morning, and her name is Dr. Lisa Morgan. You've been hearing one of her songs as we've been leading into this. Hi, Lisa. Great to have you with us.
Hello, Martin. Good to be here.
Lisa is a clinical psychologist. John spelt it wrong on the cover of it, if you've noticed that. And
my phone auto-corrected it as that.
that's the good
not.
excuse. Yes, we'll forgive you. It is Mental Health Awareness Week, if you didn't know, and we're just thinking about mental health awareness as a church just now. And Lisa is the person, because she's got professional experience, that we're going to be talking to about it. They say, Lisa, that 1 in 4 peoples will suffer with a mental health condition of some kind during their lifetime. I think it's higher than that myself. Because all of us have got experience of mental health situations, running from depression to psychotic illnesses, and mental health awareness. How do you think people are aware today, and is there a growing awareness, do you think? And do you think because I see one of the slogans of the Mental Health Awareness Week is stop the stigma. Do you think there's still a stigma attached to mental health situations?
I think there is. I think a lot of work has been done, a lot of advances have been made. There is still a stigma, but the very fact that something is now appearing as a strapline, stop the stigma, tells you how much progress has been made already. If you think about how mental health is now talked about, common discourses in society, celebrities, the royal family, raising the profile of mental health needs, that tells you how far we've come, that an heir to the throne is now at the very foundation of a mental health initiative heads together. That said, I think we in our society sometimes contribute to that stigma. We in our culture are very diagnostically led as far as mental health conditions are concerned, and there are other cultures that are not. So one of the problems that can create is to locate distress, locate problems with life, problems with living, locate it as a flaw or a problem in the individual person that needs to be treated or rectified. And that can be quite an isolating experience for people. One of the things I'm quite passionate about is understanding distress on a continuum, that it's a part of life for all of us. It's the other side of the coin. It's the less preferred side of the coin. For some people, that can become extreme. For some people, that means a diagnosis of a mental health difficulty can be a gateway to an effective treatment, to other people validating what they've been through, understanding better. And for some people, it's actually quite pathologizing and limiting, becomes a shorthand. They behave this way because they have X, Y, or Z, rather than understanding what's happened to the person, perhaps, rather than what might be wrong with them. So I think a lot of work has been done to tackle stigma in lots of arenas. We've got a long way to go. There is still a stigma, but I mean, one of the things that's going on in the current COVID-19 context is that we're all talking about mental health now. We're hearing it from the lectern most days at the daily briefing. There's some aspect of how this is challenging for people to live with. And there is a lot that we can all do to support one another, where there is almost nobody in the world that we could share this situation with at the moment who wouldn't know. It's a really unique position that we're in. So yes, a lot of work has been done with stigma. There is a lot more that can be done at the political level, amongst leadership and policy, but there's also something we can do as individuals.
Thank you, Lisa. That's really interesting. And Lisa, both in the NHS, in which you work as a clinical psychologist, and in your private practice, especially just now with lockdown and with social distancing and all the fears and anxieties with coronavirus. Are there things that we can do personally to guard our mental health and to look after ourselves mentally, not just physically? And are there things that we can do to help others that we have relationships with in one way or another that we see are struggling?
Absolutely. There's a lot we can do, and there's a lot people already are doing. What I see at the moment in my clinics, and I'm supporting staff members as well in the NHS who are finding this situation of going to work and still trying to be a human and still juggle childcare and all of that sort of thing. I'm seeing staff members in distress too. So I'm seeing patients and staff members. And one of the things I'm seeing is that there's almost a polarizing going on within those who feel vulnerable enough to come and see me. Those for whom a lot of the things they used to be anxious about have disappeared, because a lot of the things they were needing to try to face in daily life are not happening at the moment. So for some people, this particular context has actually suited them, if they've not become ill or those they love have not become ill, has suited their kind of preferred way of living. So for some people, their distress has gone down. For other people who come and see me, some of the anxieties around their health, the health of other people, the future, worries about children and their development, worries about how they keep themselves mentally on an even keel each day. And there's a lot of things that we recommend to people in those situations. Firstly, and most importantly, being kind to themselves, exercising a little bit of self-compassion, that some days it's just about getting through the day. One of the things in relation to that we suggest is that people limit their social media exposure. If people are using social media in terms of keeping up with friends, keeping up with family, that's one thing, but social media can be responsible for unrealistic representations of our lives, and I've met with lots of people who really are feeling it's quite challenging because they're not comparing to what they're seeing in terms of their lifestyle on social media. So I would say limit social media. I would also say try to avoid becoming saturated with the news. We live in a culture now where we can consume news all day if we want to, but the question is, how much do we need to know, and whether any more information will change what we need to do. So we need to find the self-discipline to draw a line in terms of what's healthy. In terms of our own daily routines, a daily structure is our friend at the moment. And we factor personality and natural tendencies very strongly into this, because there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. For example, somebody who struggles with routine and may find that the daily routine drops away, for example, if they've been furloughed or unemployed at the moment, might struggle to keep the basics going, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, sleeping at the right times, which of course is very helpful for our mental health. Those things might be challenging, and instead of expecting to become somebody who's going to become a routine person, and they never have been, might use the benefit of accountability to another person. So might call on a friend, I struggle with routine, can you help me? I know routine's going to help, but I'm going to find that hard to get that in place. Can you prompt me a bit? Can we have a chat at 9 o'clock in the morning? Because I know that will mean that I've had to have got up. Some of those things, recognizing who we are and allowing ourselves to be part of a community of people. Sometimes it's really hard to ask for help. I know I found that really difficult this week when I was really snowed under with working hours during the day and the evening. And a friend said, let me cook you and your family a meal, please. And I will bring it over hot, ready to eat. And I found it really hard to accept that offer. We strive to be as independent as we can, and we have a certain degree of pride about how we're managing, but we need to allow the community to come together at the moment. We need to acknowledge who we are. We need to work with that. We need to try as far as we can to see that we're eating good food. We need that spread of vitamins. Lots of us will need a high dose vitamin D at the moment, which has an influence on our mood as well as our general health. So lots of things we can do. But I think it starts with reach out, recognize who we are naturally, recognize that the things about us that might be challenging now, like a lack of routine or structure, might be the very traits that serve us very well in other aspects of life. We might be strong creatives, or we might be dynamic and project oriented. Those are all really good things. We don't want to lose those. But it's just realizing that sometimes those things might mean we need some help from someone else with what we need to keep going in terms of the cogs of the wheel that need to keep going at the moment. Just be kind to yourselves, and we don't need to be someone else. I love the church service that I watched in relation to COVID-19 through OBC, where you talked about David and Goliath. You don't need to be anyone else other than David here. You can be truly yourself and reach out.
Oh, Lisa, that's just so helpful. Thank you, thank you so much. And you mentioned about community, and you and I know that the community of a church family is when it works well is just great. And do you think that there are things that the church family can do to help one another with our mental health? Is the church family a place of healing for people? I hope gone are the days when Christians would say to one another, if you had more faith, you wouldn't be like that, or you wouldn't be feeling like that. Although sometimes, sadly, I have still heard it said. What do you think about the church and our role in caring for people with mental health issues?
I think the church has a central role, not an isolated role, but a central role. The church is a place where the usual boundaries of all the other forms of community support should really be gone. The church is a place where people should really be able to be themselves, as you say, Martyn. And that means that the church is a place where healing becomes a much broader term than physical healing, so that we're not measuring whether God and by virtue ourselves are being effective by whether prayers are being answered in the way we might expect when we're praying for healing for somebody, for example, but that healing becomes a more broad term, that we can be whole, and we can be whole together in community. Churches are fantastic at mobilizing kind of pastoral structures, knowing people really well, matching people together in context or small pastoral bubbles or whatever is required in this kind of context. Churches can be incredibly creative in how they pray with people over the phone or by video call or by text or WhatsApp or whatever the modality, social media. Churches at the moment can be really creative and dynamic in being able to still let God speak. God's not restricted by any of this stuff that's going on or any of the reasons why it could be difficult in other community settings to be able to provide that support. But the Bible is God breathed, and that means we believe it now, whether or not the church can physically be in the same place. There's still a lot that can be done, and I know ABC has strong pastoral structures, strong prayer links. Those things are absolutely valuable, and we are in a situation now where we need to rely on prayer more than ever, because lots of people, for lots of reasons, either they're shielding or they're shielding somebody else, are physically unable to go out, use their hands to do some of the things they might have done. We're all relying on prayer a lot more. Churches used to be at the very centre of communities, and that time may be coming again.
I hope so, Lisa, and I hope that all the people listening just now and those that will listen in coming hours will know that OBC is a church that really does care and wants to pray with you and for you. Please take the opportunity to reach out to us as we seek to reach out to you and support one another as we show kindness to one another and to our community. Lisa, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's been lovely to be here.
John, how is that for you?
That was good. Very encouraging. Thank you, Lisa. That's
yeah, I think you and I have got some good tips there as well.
I've been banging my head against the wall here. So, Lisa, I was really encouraged to hear that you want to start a little project, a little musical project. You haven't done one for years. I've spent. I produced both of Lisa's albums, and I've really had fun working with Lisa. She's a great person to work with musically and as a person. Just maybe, if you want, do you want to say a little bit about what you might be working on soon or not?
Sure. Well, another much loved member of OBC, Ivor Reveley, who I counted as blessed enough to count as a good friend. Before he died, it was his hope that I would be able to sing with Gary Glacier, who I'm sure lots of you, many of you know as well. We just couldn't pull it together before Ivor sadly had to leave us and go and be with the Lord. So the time has come, Gary and I feel, and thankfully John is happy to support us to get this done, to be able to work on a recording project together, so that the final details of what that might look like and when that might happen have not been finalised. But certainly we've picked one song to begin with. I'm not going to say what that is, just in case we do a U-turn and do another song.
I wasn't going to say it because I've forgotten the name of it already.
I will say it's a Lauren Daigle song, but I won't say which one. And so we're really excited and really hope that musical project will encourage lots of people too.
Yeah. And we're going to be playing out at the end of this with a song called Behind the Smiles from your Chasing My Tail album. Sorry to throw this on you, but any thoughts about what's behind the lyrics of that song?
Oh, very much. I've struggled actually sometimes silently with the conflict between what we feel we have to say or what we feel is acceptable to present, so that people don't reject us, or that we feel that we might be identified as flawed in some way. The conflict between that and what's actually up here, the reality of human nature and who we are. And it was a song of gratitude, actually, that God knows exactly who we are behind those smiles, and all of that in his sight is lovely.
Wonderful. Looking forward to hearing that.
Enjoy listening to that now, friends.
Nobody knows my dreams but you. Nobody hears the silence of my mind, and nobody dares to ask me questions. Yet you already know the answer.